Well, good afternoon. I'm able to get over here and pay our Napa bill. Whoops, I'm about to hit a Napa truck here. I gotta be careful. Um, and a Napa, a big box truck parked right behind me here. Let me see if I can get out behind him. I had to use the old camera system and I hate the way these BMWs do this on the mirrors. I like my mirror to stay where I have it, and they think that I automatically want to flip it down for some reason or another. Sometimes automation will outdo you, or new technology will outdo you. That's one thing I hate about this car. I've hated it. The last two that I've had like that, they BMW quit doing that. I hate it. If I have my mirrors positioned, leave them alone. Don't think that I need, when I put it in reverse, that mirror on the right side needs to go down. Bad idea. If I could figure out how to disable that, I would, because that's one thing that infuriates me about the BMW vehicles. But let me get back to what my title's about. Uh, it's the future of trucking, and it's as I see it. Now, like I've told you in some of the past videos, if you looked at any of my other videos, I've been in the trucking industry since 1967. Started in it as a yard, a dock worker, and then uh, what they call a yard worker at Carolina Freight Carriers in Cherryville, North Carolina. Carolina being one of the, well, used to be one of the largest trucking companies in the United States. Uh, as a lot of the executives started aging out, and I knew this would happen. They kind of, the hierarchy that was within Carolina Freight wanted to sell it out. They brought in people that I never felt like had the best interest of Carolina Freight and the surrounding community at heart. They were just stockholders. All they want to do is get their stock, get out, boom, whatever it took. Anyway, uh, the uh, the way I look at the state or the future of trucking in the United States and the world, I guess too, it's going to be changing, but I don't think it's going to change as rapidly as some of the people with the new technology wants it to change. Now, that being said, I'm I'm actually having to make business decisions right now because of some of the new technology. The new technology is forcing me to buy newer trucks than I really wanted to, because they're FedEx, who I'm contracted to, is mandating that in a few years that all of our trucks are going to have the collision avoidance system. Uh, that's basically the radar on the front of the truck that if you're following something too close, or if you're not paying attention, or whatever the case may be, the truck will stop automatically. Now, a lot of people have seen that. You know, a lot of cars are advertising that technology, and it's a good technology, but it's tough as a business person like myself that I'm going to be mandated to completely do away with the fleet that I have and revamp and buy all new trucks, because I've got a lot of trucks that are still good trucks, and we could overhaul them and do other things with it and keep them on the road for several years to come. But the way that they're doing this, I'm going to have to basically sell these good usable trucks ahead of schedule to get the trucks that they need to pass mandate. time marches on. I mean, we run about 90 trucks. Now, not all those are contracted to FedEx. Not all those. Some of them are spares. Some of them are trucks that I just haven't. I haven't sold. I've kept over the years. They're aging out on me. But sometimes, people like these old trucks. But the new technology that's coming down the pipeline is pretty interesting, I guess you might say. All right, I got to get over here. Oh Lordy, this is one part of Charlotte that I do not like. If you want to know where I'm at, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina right now, and I've got to get up here, and I got to get back in the right lane. No. I don't run this particular road enough to. There it is. Okay. Excuse my driving and talking. I guess I'm not doing a very good job of it right now. But anyway, getting back to the trucks, I like some of the technology, but I don't like some of the boasting that I hear from some of the trucking companies like Tesla and Nikola and a lot of these others that are coming out with their so-called mileage and the truck that won't break down. I mean, Elon Musk hasn't made a car yet that won't break down. I don't know how he expects a tractor trailer truck will be maintenance free. And that's what sells with him, I guess. So many people feel like he's a godsend and everything else, but he's been able to do a lot of stuff, but has yet to turn a profit. I guess when you got your funding from your investors and people that, and I want him to succeed, don't get me wrong. I think he's an innovator. I think he pushes the envelope to the limit. I wish I could get the kind of financial backing that he's able to muster. I mean, he's taken his to the brink and back again, but his financial numbers don't ever add up. But so, the same thing can be said for Twitter and Facebook and a lot of others in the past, and they finally have, well, Twitter I don't think's come around yet, but Facebook's finally made a profit, made money, and but that's a new technology, and it may be something in the past. 10 years from now, we may say, what was Facebook? Because things those are very quick nowadays. I mean, think back of the technologies, like of how dominant maybe one thing was in the market, and you don't even think of it anymore. I mean, think how many people have camcorders now that they're actually using. I don't know many people that you'll see whip out a camcorder. They don't use it anymore. We're using these phones because the technology with these phones and the portability of these phones is so great that it's why even do something like that? I mean, to think that I'm streaming a live stream to the cloud and they're recording it, and it can be kept and seen by an infinite amount of people is amazing. And that in itself is something. But getting back on the Tesla and the Nikola, and I've seen MAN and Volvo, a lot of different places. They're touting all the different technologies, and it's great. But we don't have the infrastructure yet even if you had 100 or 200 or 1,000 of these Tesla trucks on the road, they don't have the infrastructure to support them right now. I mean, you can't have a vehicle that you're gonna send out on a route and expect it, if it has an issue with the power, if it loses power for some reason and it needs to be regenerated or be plugged back in, where are you going to find that? I mean, you can find anywhere, just about. There's truck stops galore that have diesel fuel. Now, how many truck stops are going to let you stop and park and plug in and stay there for 30 minutes or better? Hello? 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 All right, who am I speaking with? Yes. It is. Sir, I got a very bad connection. You'll have to call me back. And that was the typical telemarketer. I don't even know why I answered that. It spoofed a local number. That's a whole different rant there that I could come up with. Telemarketers spoofing local numbers. But anyway, getting back to the trucks, and let's see if I can stay on. Let me see if I can stay on the mark here. The new trucks, I think, will be a great thing in maybe 15 years. I don't think in the next 10 years that we're going to have enough infrastructure built in that they can do anything. And infrastructure, just like anything, like it's bridges, like roads, everything that you think out there has to have good infrastructure. I mean, we could. I'm old enough to remember when a lot of these interstates were not even built. So, seeing the emergence of all the when all these roads, like I'm on I-85 near Charlotte now. It was primarily a 2-lane road on each. I mean, it was 4 lane, 2 lanes each side. Now it's all the way from almost the Gaston County or South Carolina line, basically almost. It's 6 lanes and 8 lanes. I mean, 6 lanes, 3 on each side, or 8 lanes, 4 on each side, all the way in from the South Carolina line almost. Just a couple of miles down there, there's not. And then on the other side of Charlotte, they're doing the same thing. And this is what I'm talking about. The emergence of infrastructure, whether it's or about here, a fuel equation. I mean, you got to think about it. Fuel. If they only had 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 truck stops on the East Coast, or say if they had only had 10 truck stops on the East Coast, can you imagine how backed up they would be getting into each fuel island? Well, this is what's going to take so much time to get this working. I mean, they're not going to have charging stations, and there again, and do they have a one size fits all charger too? They're not going to have all these charging stations in every truck stop. I don't think. I don't know if Petro and TA and Love's and all the rest of the truck stops are going to go out and put that infrastructure theirself into these truck stops until they see the influx of that many electric trucks. And then how much profit do they make on that? How much do they charge for these charging stations? Are all of them going to be the same amount? Or is somebody going to be running off solar and give you a cut rate deal on the charging station? And the other thing is, they're talking about, oh yeah, you can charge it within 30 minutes, and that's what you're legally mandated to take a 30-minute break with your ELDs. True, you have to do that. But can you imagine the backup if you had even if you had 1% or 2% of the amount of trucks that are on the road right now that were electric? Can you imagine how much of a backup it would be to even get to the charging station? I mean, it's not there. I mean, right now they've got fast pumps for a truck stop. I mean, you got the huge hoses. You stick that in, and I mean, the average person doesn't even see that because they don't realize that, you know, we can fuel a big diesel in, I would say 5 minutes. I hadn't ever timed it. You know, very quick. I mean, you can put 300 gallons of diesel in a truck real quick, and that's what the truck stops are all about. Their game is, hey, how many trucks can I get in? How many of them can fuel, and how much fuel can I disperse? So, if you imagine that the infrastructure for electric trucks were to come about, and you had 15 electric trucks waiting in line to get on, and each one of them, it takes 30 minutes to charge that truck. Well, you're going to have 15 or 20 charging stations. Now, are these truck stops going to dedicate themselves to that many charging stations? And are they going to be in the prime location that people need these charging stations? I mean, they're going to have to do some very serious analytics, I guess you'd say, on finding out if, you know, XYZ company has so many electric trucks in this area, where should we have these charging stations? What are their primary delivery points? What are their, you know, how many times a week are they going to be charging? A lot of analytics that are going to have to be studied. I mean, I guess they need to get the Facebook guy that with Cambridge Analytics to figure this out. If they can figure out smiles and frowns and everything else, maybe they could figure out something that would be useful. And they probably will. You'll probably get some company that they can derive these kind of analytics that will be beneficial to these infrastructures going forward. But like I said, that being said, I don't think that the future of trucking is going to be as fast as people think it's going to be. Just because you build that fancy mousetrap does not mean you're going to catch all the mice. I mean, you got to make sure that all the studies, where do I put these charging stations? Will these people actually use my charging station? Will, a lot of data has got to be figured out. And the other thing is too, a lot of people say, oh, well, gosh, your fuel is going to be so much cheaper and blah, blah, blah. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think these states who are getting the fuel tax money right now are going to sit back and say, well, we just don't need to tax these electric vehicles? These electric vehicles, we'll just let them have that tax-free. No, sir. They're going to come up with a mileage rate that they predict what your electric truck should pay back to the state in tax. Each state right now has a different tax rate. Just like I basically buy a lot of my fuel in North Carolina, because North Carolina actually has a high tax rate, but I run a lot in South Carolina, and because I run so many South Carolina miles, with my trucks, I actually get a rebate back because I've already paid North Carolina a high fuel tax. And the reason I do that, I kind of balance it out between what the price is at the pump and the tax differential and how much that I should be able to get back per truck. Now I know some people are saying, what the heck is he talking about? Well, once you get your first tax bill, and if you've got a lot of trucks, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about, because I have my guys that try to overanalyze the situation. They say, oh yeah, I saw the fuel was cheaper in South Carolina. I said, no, the fuel was not cheaper, not the overall cost of fuel. I have to look at the overall cost of what the cost it is per gallon and the tax that I'm paying on, because that tax is a hidden cost that these other guys do not see. Because North Carolina, for instance, like I said, is a very high taxed state on fuel. But when you look at the overall cost of fuel, it's cheaper than, say, South Carolina. South Carolina at the pump looks like it's cheaper. Now, for the average person that's buying fuel for their car, fine. You buy it in South Carolina, you don't have to worry about paying road tax. I do. So this is a cost of trucking that so many people don't even analyze or don't even think about. So that's one reason that I say these electric vehicles that are going to be coming about are not going to be the godsend. They're not going to be the everything that everybody wants. I mean, they are going to be they're going to be good in emissions, you might say. I mean, I would rather see it be electric than I had all the EGR valves and everything else that we have to deal with now. I mean, right now we've got some of the worst technology, I would say, that's hit the trucking industry in the past 50 years. Everything that's been mandated, that's horse pee or cow pee, or I've heard pig pee, or whatever, it's urine. And when they first came out with that, I was in a meeting with some of them. They were, I think it was Volvo or somebody. Anyway, we were being sold on the, oh yeah, DEF is going to be great for the EGRs and everything. It's going to keep the engines cooler and everything else. And I basically raised my hand. I said, is there any way that we could put a catheter in the? And they said, what? I said, well, if I'm going to be paying for pee, I could kill 2 with 1 stone. I could just put a catheter on my drivers. They wouldn't have to stop the pee, and you could just recycle the pee for DEF. Well, they didn't like the fact that I made a joke of it, I guess, but it's about the truth. We're actually, they have found a way to, they have found a way to charge you for a waste product, and it's crazy. But that's part of the way that the trucking industry is going. The technology, like I said, they have suppressed good technology. Trucks used to breathe. They used to perform well. Yeah, they polluted somewhat, I guess you might say, but there's a lot of cars and everything else out there that pollute way more. I know that I'm not an environmentalist, and I hear all the people talking about global warming. When they talk about global, the existence of people on the planet contribute more to global warming than some of the mechanicals that go into this global warming. Now, some people will say, you're just dreaming. No, it's the truth. I mean, think about it. I mean, we as people, just the fact that we are people, living on the planet, we are contributing to a lot of the pollution. I mean, but let's get off that and back to trucking. I want to get back to the trucking part. The fact that we are buying, or going to be buying, these electric vehicles, or I think Nikola wants to do a fuel cell, which is interesting too. But I don't see, and you know, of course, the good thing about theirs is I'm hearing they're looking at a 1,200 mile instead of a 500 mile recharge. And that would, a 1,200 mile will get you to a lot of destinations and fewer points that you would have to refuel. And then a major company like UPS or FedEx or some of the other carriers, they could go from point to point to point and do it internally, and then they could build their own infrastructure. And that I see, you know, being a pretty good thing. Now like I said, the other part with Tesla, I think, you know, they got some good ideas. I think they you know, kind of hit upon some things that other people like Freightliner and some of the other ones have not done yet. But don't rule out Freightliner, and don't rule out am I back on? All right, I don't know if it kept the time. I guess it did. I'm in a bad spot right here on I-85. I lose a lot. This is the DOT day. I see they're pulling everybody in across the scales. Whew. Oh boy. I saw where they were going to do that sometime this week. I just went by the scales right here between Kings Mountain and Gastonia. But anyway, getting back to the ranting and raving about the trucking industry, I had one of my drivers that almost quit a few months ago because he was worried. He'd been listening to some of these commentators on the nighttime shows, and whoever it was said, if you're in the trucking industry, you need to get out because that job's going away because of the autonomous vehicles. Well, I think most people in the past few months have seen where the autonomous vehicles have killed some people. And those are cars, that's not trucks. So I just don't see the autonomous vehicles being a big part of the trucking industry anytime real soon, because think about it, it's extremely high now in the trucking industry. Most people don't realize that the average owner-operator spends about $10,000 a year per truck on insurance. So that, you know, a fleet of my size with, you know, I'm running with FedEx, I'm running about 38 trucks with them. So you figure that. And let's see if that's my home call. Hello. Hey. No, it's canceled. Yeah, I'm on my way back. Yeah, does Dina got to pick up Michael? All right, see ya. Yep. Anyway, life goes on there. I had to answer to the wife. That was the boss. That was my wife calling. And as 99% of you know, that when the boss calls, you better answer. So I, you know, happy wife, happy life. My motto. But anyway, back on the rant and rave about the trucks. I hadn't lost my train of thought. The future of the trucks and the future of, you know, we've got a lot of people now that have just now been exposed to ELDs, and I have some friends that, you know, are just overly concerned with ELDs. I've been dealing with ELDs for about 4 or 5 years, so they don't bother me. I'm past that technology. We've had, you know, electronic logging devices in our vehicles. My drivers actually like them. Now the average, you know, the guy that's very independent, it's not structured the way I'm structured with FedEx Ground, probably does not like the ELDs. Now my runs are 500 to 600 miles a day, so my guys are in and out back the same day. They can make the trip at a decent speed, get back and forth within the 11 hours. Everything we've got structured so the guys can get back within the 11 hours. So, you know, and that's one of the other things with that. Some people are really upset with ELDs. Now, that's a minor blip on the road, I think, that's causing problems. Now, for the guy who was habitually cheating the system with a paper log, whereas he had the guys running 14 hours and they instead of 11, then yeah, that cut into him if his guys were running 14 hours a day. And I'm sorry, it's one of those things. Now they've got to understand there's ways to maximize what you can do and not do with the ELD. There's so many people that are letting their drivers run them wrong, and that's why they're probably hating the ELDs. I mean, you've got to be smart about it, and we go through edits every single day because guys are just doing dumb things. In other words, they'll get on, log on to the logging device and sit around jaw in the break room before they go out, and then they get out and they kick the tires, whatever they're going to do, and then they'll take off. Well, they've already abused 45 minutes of on duty not driving. Well, you don't need to do that. You can tighten the ship up. You can tighten it up and be legal by giving yourself 15 minutes of pre-trip, and do it with your pre-trip. If you want to log on to that thing with pre-trip, do that, and what you're supposed to do, and then do a 15-minute pre-trip. And then when you come to a stop, when you're stopping at a rest stop, or you know, if you got to go into a McDonald's for 5 minutes, hit that rest break. Go on that rest break. Do not leave it on. On duty not driving sucks your time away from it. So that's what we're doing, because and a lot of them don't even understand what it does. I mean, like when you're off duty and say you're at a location and you need to go to a McDonald's down the street, you can do personal conveyance. And a lot of them don't understand what personal conveyance is. They need to read up about it. And they need to know that that truck can be used like a personal vehicle for certain things, so they can not being so they're not stuck somewhere. I mean, so many of them are feel like they're being stuck, and I can't move. I can't move anymore. I can't do this. I can't do that. And there's also an exception rule on there too that will let you go past your time once a week. Once a week. It won't let you do it every single day. Once a week. There's a thing like for road hazards. If you get stuck in a snowbank, or whatever the case may be, you can once a week go in there and I think you can go up to 16 hours. I don't have all of it in front of me, so I don't really want to say what all of it is. I mean, I kind of have to read the rules myself. I don't have them memorized. I'm not on the road every day, so I don't have them memorized. But there are some exceptions that you can do and do legally. I mean, that's how snow removal gets done in the north and a lot of places like that, because the state employees that have to get out there and work 18, 20 hours a day, they're allowed to do that because they're trying to fix the roads for the rest of us. And but that's one part of the trucking business that, along with the trucks that are coming down the pipeline, they're going to change it, but I don't think they're going to change it in the dramatic fashion that everybody thinks they're going to change it. So, we shall see. We shall see. I mean, it's I'm about to talk myself dry here. I'm a big talker, as most of you will see right now. I've got 67 years of trucking stuck in my head here, or at least 50-something years anyway. The first 17, I didn't really care about it. Well, I did. My dad was a trucker too, but so I guess virtually all my life I've been involved with the trucking business, because Dad, that was his career from the time I was born until the time he passed away. That was my dad's career. He worked at Carolina Freight Carriers in Cherryville for 38 years. So I've got a lot of background with the trucking. I don't mind giving my opinion. Like I've said before, opinions are like buttholes. Everybody's got one, and they're all different usually. So if you like my opinion, give me a like. If you don't, give me a dislike. If you got a comment to say about it, whether you think I'm right, wrong, whatever, let me know. I'm probably just going to get off here and quit ranting and raving right now, but I hope you get a small synopsis of or a small idea. I maybe use my wife fusses at me for using terminology wrong. My wife is a former school teacher, by the way.